I'm Balraj. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's video is on the continent of South America, and before I move into it, I would like to talk about Latin America. You must have heard about Latin America. Now, why is it called Latin America? See, Latin was the language of the Romans, and from Latin languages like Portuguese, Spanish, even Italian and French have emerged. And it was during the 16th century that the Spanish and Portuguese came and settled in South America. And that is why it is called Latin America also. But if we talk about Latin America, then it's a broader term. It includes countries like Mexico, West Indies and the Central American countries. So now, in this video, I will be basically talking about the physical features of South America. And I have broadly divided the physical features into 4 divisions. One is the western coastal strip, which is nothing but the strip of land between the Andes Mountains and the Pacific. Second is the Western Mountains, and Western Mountains here include the Andes mountain chain. Now, Andes are young-fold mountains, and I have discussed the formation of young-fold mountains in my video on plate tectonics, so please refer to that video. And there is a word called Cordilleras which is associated with Andes. Now, Cordillera is a Spanish word which means rope or chain or parallel series of mountains. Now, if we look at the northern part of the Andes, we find very clearly the division of the Andes into parallel chains. For example, there is this towards the west is the Western Cordillera, the Central Cordillera, the Eastern Cordillera, and the Corde de Merida. Now, between the Western Cordillera and Central Cordillera, there is an important river called River Cauca. And between the Central Cordillera and the Eastern Cordillera is a river called River Magdalena. Now, when we talk about Andes, see, Andes are the world's longest mountain chain. They are 7,000 kilometers long and span almost across the entire length of the continent. And they are second highest after the Himalayan mountain system. And in fact, there is a peak called Peak Aconcagua, which is the highest peak of the Andes. It is 6,960 kilometers in height, and it is also the second highest peak after the Himalayan mountain system. And now in the Andes, we have an important volcano called Ojos del Salado, which is 6,908 meters in height. It is the world's highest active volcano. Another important active volcano is the volcano of Cotopaxi, which is the second highest volcano. Sometimes in books you might find they would say Cotopaxi is the world's highest active volcano. Now, in the Andes, there is an important pass called the Uspallata Pass. Now, this Uspallata Pass has a railway running across it, which is a transcontinental railway. In fact, the only transcontinental railway in entire South America. And this connects Valparaiso, which is in Chile, to Buenos Aires. And another subdivision would be the Central Plains. Now, Central Plains basically have developed because of the river basins, like for example the Amazon River Basin, the Orinoco River Basin, the Parana, Paraguay and Uruguay River Basin. So, I was talking about the Latin. I would like to add something to it. That there is a line called the Tordesillas line. Now, this is basically an artificial line, not an actual physical line. If you look at towards its east, you will find Portuguese being spoken, and towards its west, Spanish is spoken. So, it has actually come from the Tordesillas Treaty. So, let's continue with our physical features. So I was talking about the Central Plains, and after that the fourth division would be the Eastern Highlands. Now, Eastern Highlands have in Eastern Highlands we have the Brazilian Highlands and the Guyana Highlands. Now, the Brazilian Highlands can be subdivided into 5 parts. One is the Plateau of Borborema and Sertão. Sertão just means uplands. And the Plateau of Monte Grasso, and Sierra de Montiquera and Sierra do Mar. Sierra is a Spanish word which means mountains. And let's come to the Guyana Islands. Now Guyana Islands can be divided into Sierra Pacaraima and Sierra de Tunquio-Macu. And the Guyana Highlands have the highest peak of Brazil, which is Pico de Neblina. And in the Brazilian Islands, the highest peak is Pico de Bandira. Pico de Bandira is 2,890 meters in height, whereas Pico de Neblina, which is the highest peak of Brazil, is 2,994 meters in height. Now, after this, I would like to come to the rivers that flow in South America. So let's start with Amazon. Amazon is the world's second longest river, but largest in terms of the water discharge. See, till now it was very difficult to establish which was the exact starting point or the most distant source of Amazon, but now recently it has been established that there is a place called Nevado Mismi in southern Peru, about 160 kilometers from Lake Titicaca. So this is the starting point of the Amazon river, and in the Amazon there are about 1100 tributaries, but some of the important tributaries are River Madeira. Now River Madeira is the longest tributary of Amazon. Another important tributary is River Tapajos, and an important left bank tributary is River Negro. Now this Amazon river also has some important ports. For example, there is this port of Iquitos. Now this port of Iquitos is about 3,500 kilometers inland. So this is the most inland port in the world from any ocean, which is connected by a river. So it's a riverine most inland port. Another important port is called a port called Manaus, which is somewhere here. And after this, I would like to come to an important river system called the Parana-Paraguay river system. The Parana-Paraguay river system is also important because Parana, Paraguay and Uruguay rivers form international boundaries. For example, the Paraguay river forms the boundary between Paraguay and Brazil and Paraguay and Argentina, and the Parana river forms the boundary between Paraguay and Brazil, and the Uruguay river forms boundary between Brazil and Argentina and Uruguay and Argentina. And there is a place, there is an estuary called Rio de la Plata, and this Rio de la Plata is basically a joint stream of Parana and Uruguay river systems. Now it's an estuary. Estuary simply means a place where rivers, streams come and mix with the oceanic water, and a zone is formed of brackish water. Brackish means salt, saline water. So it is also a place which is rich in biodiversity. And another important estuary is the Bahia Blanca. Now Bahia Blanca basically means a white bay. Now in this Bahia Blanca, a river called River Colorado, which comes into it. Let's talk a little bit more about some important bays which I think a student should know. There's an important bay called the Gulf of San Matias. There's another one called the Gulf of San Jose, and there's another called Grand Bay. Now Grand Bay is a bay between the Falkland Islands and the mainland of South America. There's another bay called the Gulf of Pinas and Gulf of Guayaquil. Now if you can see this, there's a small rounded, there's a small round that I've made. Here I've shown a peninsula called the Valdez Peninsula. This Valdez Peninsula is minus 40 meters below sea level. It is the lowest point of South America. And I was talking about physical features. I've missed this Bolivian plateau. Now Bolivian plateau is basically an altiplano, which actually means a plateau between the mountain chains. So it is a plateau between the Andes mountains. Now on the Bolivian plateau we have a lake called Lake Titicaca. Now Lake Titicaca is the world's highest navigable lake. Other than this, there is a lake called Lake Popo. So let's move from here to the factors which influence the climate of South America. An important factor is the presence of subtropical high pressure air masses over the South Atlantic and the Pacific and the continent of South America. And besides this is the fact that there is a cold current called the Humboldt current which flows from south to north. Now these cold currents have a drying effect which is technically called the desiccating effect. So other than this, another important thing which influences the climate of South America is the orographic barrier presented by the Andes as well as the rain shadow effect of the Andes. And when I've talked about rain shadow effects, let's talk about some of the dry and arid regions of South America. So there's a desert called the Atacama Desert. Now this is one of the world's driest deserts. Now it is so dry because the trade winds which come are blocked by the Andes, so it comes in the rain shadow effect of the trade winds. And there is a cold Humboldt current flowing. Cold currents have a drying effect, so that makes it again dry. And the presence of a high pressure system which leads to the descending of the air masses. And whenever the air comes down, it compresses, heats up and makes rainfall almost impossible. And there is another very dry place called Arica. What I've missed about Atacama is that it was once an important source of nitrates, and during the 19th century Chile used to be an important exporter of nitrates. Now it's almost exhausted. So other than this, let's come to another dry region, which is the desert of Patagonia. Now Patagonia is basically a tableland kind of desert. It's a temperate desert, and it's a desert because it's again in the rain shadow effect of the Andes mountain system, and of the westerlies. Westerlies winds are blocked by the Andes, so it creates a rain shadow effect. Other than this, the northeastern part of Brazil is also a very dry and arid region, and it witnesses a lot of droughts almost every year. And another dry region of South America is the northeastern Colombia and parts of Venezuela. Now this is surprising because it's a place near equator, and despite that it is dry. And another important thing which I missed about Amazon was, from the point of view of exams, is that Amazon is a river that has its mouth almost on the equator. So this is something that you should keep in mind. And after this I will talk about the vegetation which is found in South America. See, there are tropical grasslands which are found. For example, the llanos. Llanos are tropical grasslands which are found between the Andes and the Guyana Highlands. And we have the campos, which are again tropical grasses. These tropical grasses are also called savannas. And if you look at it closely, there is something called caatingas which are written. Caatingas is here. Caatingas are basically tropical thorny vegetation. And between the caatingas and campos is another region of cerrados. Now cerrados is basically a woodland savanna vegetation between caatingas and campos. And coming to vegetation, Pampas region is a region of temperate grasses, and these days alfalfa has been replaced by the traditional natural vegetation. Alfalfa is a leguminous grass, and it's also very nutritious. Leguminous means it has the potential to enrich the soil with nitrates. And another important region is Gran Chaco. Now Gran Chaco actually means a hunting land. It basically has grasslands with trees. So now let's also come to some of the other features, like for instance, I would like to talk about the Magellan Strait. Now Magellan Strait is a strait between the Atlantic and the Pacific. Now strait is basically a term which means a narrow passage of water which connects two larger water bodies. So Magellan connects these two water bodies, Atlantic and the Pacific. And if you look at closely down south, there is an island called Tierra del Fuego. Now this small island is shared between Chile and Argentina. And if you go south, there is something called Cape Horn, which is the southernmost part of South America. And if you go still further south, you will find a passage called Drake Passage, which is a passage between South America and Antarctica. And now I would like to talk a little bit about well, I think this is more than enough for the video. So, well, thank you very much for watching, and please stay tuned. I'll upload more videos. Thank you.